Good evening, everyone. All right. Nice to see so many people here tonight. Once again, my name is Tim Fergal. I'm the Executive Director of the Troy Public Library. We are going to be talking about everybody's favorite topic today, the 2026 fiscal year library budget, as well as getting an opportunity to meet the candidates, the 5 candidates who are running for 4 open trustee seats on the library board. First off, I just want to take this opportunity to thank the people who stood for election this year. It can be a lot to go out and to collect those signatures on the ballot. So let's just get everyone a round of applause for that. As I mentioned slightly earlier, we'll be spending about 30 minutes going over the budget this evening. We'll have an opportunity then to meet the trustee candidates. You'll have an opportunity to ask them some questions towards the end of the night. There are index cards and pens over on the side table in the back of the room if you want to write down questions. Once I'm done doing my Ryan Seacrest impression, I'll be, handling the cards and taking care of that. So if you have any questions, bring them up to me, and then there will be a brief opportunity at the end to go over questions you have about the library. So does that sound good to everyone? It's warm. We'll keep it moving. So then, yes, without any further ado, let's talk about the library. Okay. So very quickly, the Board of Trustees. Currently, Carolyn Fagan is our president. As I call you out, raise your hand. Kirsten Lorcher is the vice president. Ashley Sopp is our secretary. Marie Gavazzi is our current treasurer. Rhea Drysdale and Cecilia Caro are also members of the board. Very quickly about me, I grew up in a very small town north of Syracuse. We would get about 400 inches of snow every year. I grew up on a dirt road near a potato farm, a strawberry farm, and several cornfields. So coming to Troy in the capital region really was a great opportunity for me to complete my bachelor's as well as my master's here. In 2022, I was chosen by the American Library Association as an emerging leader. This is an award that's given to 50 librarians every year. So I was very happy about that. This photo is of me at the Library of Congress during the International Librarians Reception. So again, celebrating intellectual freedom around the world. I have experience working in school libraries, public libraries, academic libraries, as well as public library systems and school library systems. And I most recently moved from Ventura, California, where I was managing 4 branches for about 1 million people who lived outside of Los Angeles. So again, here's the agenda at a very high level. I'm going to be trying to breeze through this. Again, we do have to meet our wonderful candidates. So very quickly, the mission of the Troy Public Library is to connect our community with materials, experiences, and welcoming spaces that spark curiosity, inspire joy, and support lifelong learning. This is a mission statement that the board and I spent a significant amount of time working on this past year. We're very proud of it, and we think it really encapsulates all of the services that the library provides to the community. A modern public library is not just books. It is not just a book warehouse. It is the people who connect you to information and resources. It is the friendly and welcoming spaces that we provide to everyone in the community. So again, we'll talk about how we're going to build a better library, our proposed budget increase, and then the services that we provide to the communities. Over the past year, over the past 10 months, don't want to get ahead of myself, had the opportunity to get onto the community and connect with Troy. I think it's something that the library needs to keep building on. It's great to see so many people in attendance tonight. Again, the library is built by the community that it serves. So your voices, what you want to see in terms of programming and collection, it all impacts how we build and develop it with our skills as professional librarians. We want to reach all of our community where you are. And that means visiting the over 15 school buildings between the Lansingburg School District and the Troy City School District, in addition to the private schools in the area. And with your support, the library can do even more outreach and be there for the community more often. Investing in staff. So a big part of what the board has been doing in the past 3 years is really these targeted increases to take better care of the people who build their careers at the Troy Public Library. All our entry-level library assistants, our librarians, all the way up to our branch managers. These are the people who you see every day. If I'm doing my job right, I am just background noise, and you will remember Frank giving you your holds at the desk. You will remember Lori over at the Lansingburg branch and the great service that they provide to the community. So a library is only as strong as the people who serve at the front desk. Our staff teach life skills, connect neighbors with resources, and provide essential services every day. Investing in them means better service, more outreach, and stronger programs for the community. And the last point that we're going to talk about before we move on is how do we right-size the library? Our current budget can't fully safely support, and I really want to emphasize the safety component of this. Our current budget does not allow us to safely operate 2 locations, especially 2 locations that are within historic structures. The Lansingburg branch is within the Lansingburg Academy. Parts of that building were built in 1820, and the Hart Memorial Library opened in 1897. So at best, our buildings are 130 years old. So with the budget increase, we could provide fair wages and benefits to our staff. We could have safe staffing levels. We could have enough staff to lead programs and services. Again, getting back to that outreach component that we were talking about earlier. And both library locations will remain open. Without the increase, if this budget does not pass, we will have reduced staff and services. There will be a strain on the wages and the schedules for our employees. And we will have to consolidate into 1 location. So ultimately, there will be less access for the community. I heard a lot of feedback from the community this past July when the main library was only open 6 days to the general public. A big concern that I have is if we do consolidate into 1 building, we were fortunate enough this summer to be able to send people to Lansingburg to get their books, their holds, to have a space to cool down. Without that second location, ultimately, I believe the library and the community would really suffer and struggle. And we're going to build it together. So we need your voice. The library and the board are going to start working on a long-range plan for the library services over the course of the next 5 years. So we'll be developing a community survey. We'll be holding focus groups with members in the community and really trying to hear from the people who are using the library and the people who are not using the library, the people who aren't coming into our doors, and see how we can be a more responsible agency, how we can provide better services, and ultimately have a greater impact in the community where we all live and work. I'll very briefly dive into the challenges. Many of you can guess they'll break down into historic funding, or historic facilities, a lack of staff, rising costs, and public trust. I very briefly talked about our historic facilities with the rising costs. In developing this year's version of the budget with the board, we were trying to anticipate what the impact and potential impact of tariffs would be on the library for the goods and services. A lot of library materials come in plastic covers, rising cost of plastic, heating, electric, etc. Additionally, with the budget this year, we are increasing our employer healthcare contribution 25%. So our employees would then have a 75% contribution from us rather than a 50%, so that we could retain better staff and able to provide them with a better quality of life. We can talk about the lack of staff. So generally speaking, I won't get too into the weeds during this portion. There will be time at the end for the Q&A to go over that. Because the Troy Public Library is a part of the Troy Civil Service Commission, which is a part of the New York State Civil Service Commission, we are fairly highly regulated in terms of how we can create open positions, how we can fill open positions, and who is available to do what work at the library. The library employees have also recently formed a union with Workers United and SEIU. So we're very excited about that. We're very supportive of that. We're looking forward to continuing that partnership to build a better library for the community. And we think that all of this will help address, and again, try to bring in and retain quality staff to serve the community. And lastly, public trust has been a really big challenge. The previous director, Paul Hickok, had been in this position for about 36 years. I have been here for 10 months as of yesterday. So many of you don't know me. With all the closures, I haven't had an opportunity to get out into the community as much as I would have liked. And I understand people are frustrated. Please know that the board is listening, that I am listening, and we do take your feedback seriously. So we're hoping, again, if the community is willing to invest in the library, that's something we can work together to fix in the future. Okay, so at a glance, the service population for the city of Troy is about 51,000 people. We have roughly 28,000 card holders. Last year, we circulated 85,000 items. Our digital circulation was 65,000. We have roughly 234,000 items that are available to you with your Upper Hudson Library card. We had roughly 12,500 people using our Wi-Fi last year. Our program attendance was very good, 6,700, and we had roughly 10,000 computer uses. Part of the challenge of a modern library is figuring out how to track the statistics and what's important. Because as we can see, some people are just coming in to use the Wi-Fi. Some people use our digital collections exclusively. So what is the best way for us to demonstrate, the services that we're providing to the community? So again, this is just a quick bar graph. Going over this. We are working to get these slides up on our website. In addition to being the library director, I'm also the head of facilities, the head of IT, the head of human resources. So please bear with me if things are a little bit slow. Very briefly, we wanted to take a look at the 2024 community survey just to compare what the community asked for and what we were able to deliver on this past year. So at a very high level, the community wanted facilities improvements. They wanted more accessibility and more safety. They wanted more promotion and awareness. Nobody knows what's going on at the library. What are all those fat cat librarians doing in those old buildings? More community outreach. We want expanded services for children and families in the community, especially in our Lansingburg neighborhood. And we also want a greater variety of programs. We've had people who want us to be working with RPI and with SAGE to provide lectures on AI at the public library. We want people doing, again, like we mentioned, more programs for children and families. We recently completed our summer reading program this last year, and even with the construction going on and even with the closures, we still had attendance that was similar to the previous year. So I'm very proud of how the staff were able to do all of that work under such difficult circumstances. So moving on, studies show that for every dollar that's invested into a library, the community will see on average between $4 and $5 in services provided. I've read studies that go as high as $13. This is a very conservative estimate. So the library is one piece of building a better Troy. When we think about what we would like our city to look like, how do we keep the walkable atmosphere in Troy? High-functioning libraries increase the property value for the community, right? The same way that having a well-funded school would. So this is just one piece of the puzzle of how we can get the community that we'd like to see. Now, when we look at per capita library funding across the region, you'll notice that Troy is very far down on the scale. Out of the 29 member libraries within the Upper Hudson Library System, the Troy Public Library ranks 17th in per capita funding. So we are more on par with the town of Bern or the town of Colony, which has twice the population and only one building. So, and again, these graphics will be available on the website. I don't want to take up too much of your time. So let's talk this year's tax levy. So for 2025, if you owned a home that was assessed at $150,000, your effective tax rate was 88 cents per $1,000 assessed. This meant that you would pay about $132 a year or around $11 per month. For this year's tax levy, we are proposing a 30% increase. So our effective tax rate would go up to $1.13 per $1,000 assessed. which would be about $170 a year or $14 a month. So the difference in that is $3.15, which is around the price of a small Stewart's iced coffee. So something to think about as we're going through this presentation. And again, here we are, Stewart's. Everyone loves Stewart's. Let's keep it moving. This chart, which is also available online underneath the library budget FAQ, shows the tax levy that the library has instituted going as far back as 2011, all the way up into the current proposal in 2026. So when you look at the 11 years of funding between 2011 and 2022, on average, we asked the community for a 2.8% increase. Some years we did not ask for an increase at all, and we were not given an increase at all. You'll notice again, in working with the board in my tenure here, and Paul before he retired, they were able to make gains and offering an average increase of 17.8%. And this is vital, as we've talked about, to keeping the library open, to keeping the library staffed, and to keeping the library safe for everyone to be in while they are working. So you'll notice in 2011, so the starting baseline for us, we were funded at about $890,000 in 2011. And 14 years later, we were at 1.8 million. So in those 14 years, our budget only increased about $1 million. The typical amount of money that a modern urban library with multiple branches needs to operate is anywhere from 2.2 million to 2.6 million. So you would think 4.4 million to 5.2 million. So again, just to give you an idea of how, from the perspective of a professional library manager, how severely underfunded the Troy Public Library has been the past 30 years. So take a break right here. Anyone have any questions? Okay. Per building. Yeah, thank you. And yeah, Carolyn's going to go around and hand out a copy of this year's proposed budget. Were there any other questions about? Yep, Shakul. What a great question. And for those who couldn't hear, Shakul was asking, do I know what the average assessed value in the city of Troy is? So being a librarian, I did my research. I went to the city assessor's office, and the city assessor told me, well, it's complicated. There has not been an assessment done on properties in Troy in some years. So instead of trying to work with a gray number, the library typically sticks with about $150,000 just so we can stay consistent with our past practices. My armchair math, it was about $230,000, but again, that's armchair math. Take that with a grain of salt. Yes, please. And what's your name? Nice to meet you, Jillian. Yeah. Yeah.
There's no way to get more money to the general budget, like you can't take it away from like harder.
Really wonderful question. So what Jillian is asking about is the library a part of the city? And in 2010, the library voted to become a special legislative district. So encompassing 2 school districts, we had to work with the state legislature, and we created a special taxing district. So that way the library can go directly to the voters to determine what our funding level should be. Previously, we were having to compete with the city, with the fire services, police services. And at the end of the day, if your house is burning down, I can recommend a book to you, but you don't want to see me there. You want to see the fire department. So the library was in a very difficult spot for a long time. And that contributed to, we really did the best we could to be responsible to the people who live in Troy. And with Mary Muller being the board president at the time, working with Paul, establishing the library as a special legislative district set us up for success. So that way we can say, look, if you want to fund the library at $10 million, you are more than welcome to do that. If you want to fund the library at $1.9 million, where it currently is, you are able to do that. So great question. All right. Very quickly, I'm just gonna, again, try to keep it moving. All of this information is available on our website. There is a tab at the top of the page about this year's proposed budget. So looking at the year-over-year increases, the 30%, 96% of our revenue comes from the tax levy. The board and I are discussing ways in which we can try to find alternate revenue streams in the future. But like many public libraries in the United States, we are heavily reliant on support from the taxpayers. I also do want to shout out our Friends of the Library. Freda Mirzan is the president of the Friends, and they provide us with about $20,000 a year in support. That goes towards programs, speaker fees. It also, this year, was able to provide new computers for the library. So we really appreciate the support that the Friends of the Library gives us. Troy also has a library foundation, and we receive about $31,000 off of the interest in an account that the foundation manages for us. And then those are sort of the general highlights again, 96% tax levy, foundation trends. Revenue from fines and from services like our CDTA bus cards is down. When that program was first offered, Troy was an early adopter. As more locations around the city and around Rensselaer County and Albany County have started to offer CDTA bus passes, we are not seeing as much revenue from that as we once were. The general trend in libraries is moving towards providing people with access and not having prohibitive fines. So with the Troy Public Library being a fine-free library, that revenue would typically only be less than 1% of our operating budget. We thought it would be much better to have people using the library and getting involved rather than shutting the door on them. And now we'll take a look at some of the expenses. Salary and benefits are always going to be your greatest cost as an organization. Ours are around 70% of the budget at this point. The notable increases this year are going to be modest increases in staff development, in our salary, and in our health insurance. One of the things we would be able to do this year, if the budget is successful, is hire one position. We would be able to hire a public information officer, which is sort of an odd position to ask for, right? You're saying, Tim, the library is closing every day. Can't you get more people on the desk? And only having one position, there really wouldn't be a substantial difference in having that one person there, whether or not we're able to close the buildings. Having a public information officer who can manage our social media, who can manage our website, who could help us write grants, having someone like that would be able to allow us to get more capital project money, would be able to, let the community know what the library is doing in our old dusty buildings. And we think that the return on that would be very significant for us as an institution. As I mentioned at the start of my talk, our employer healthcare contribution is increasing from 50% to 75%. We want to be able to give our newly unionized employees, again, a livable wage, better salary, more desirable benefits. And there's some equalization from staff pay adjustments. Staff who have been long tenured have not seen their pay rise at the level with some of our new hires. So again, really trying to honor and respect the people who have been here. Carol Roberts, our head of youth services, has been here for 18 years. So we really want to applaud that and just recognize the work that Carol's been doing for us. Administrative expenses. There is roughly a 44% increase in administrative expenses this year. A majority of that is going to come down to the roughly $50,000 that the library is proposing to spend on legal services and having an outside human resources consultant. As I talked about at the beginning of the slide, I'm a very accomplished librarian. I am a very poor lawyer. You do not want to have me represent you. Similarly, I am not a trained HR professional. So really, with modern public libraries being open and accessible to the public, there are a lot of moving parts, a lot of challenges that we need to confer with our legal department on. And also, again, the staff unionized largely around concerns about their safety. So having professional HR support to talk to people about the employee access program and to make sure that we're being compliant with New York State laws is really a priority for me. So Here we are, and really it's just those two items make up the bulk of that 44% increase. Over to the facility side, one of the most exciting parts of this budget discussion was working with the board to figure out what can we do to be responsible stewards of these two historic buildings that we've been given to take care of. So our budget reflects a significant investment in protecting the history of Troy, the history of these buildings, and making sure that the wonderful skylights above you will not be tumbling down on you tonight. So $80,000 is being set aside for the library to go after additional capital improvement projects. With New York State library construction grants, the library is what we call a 90-10 recipient. So we pay 10% as a match, and we receive an additional 90% of support from New York State. So we're able to make very good use of those state grants. Troy is really the poster child for that program. Not necessarily something we should be proud of, but again, it gives us a very great opportunity to take care of what we have and to secure our future here at the Hart Memorial Library for another 132 years. Additionally, this budget also provides a 67% increase across the board. A lot of that will be going into maintenance and repair at the Lansingburg branch and here at the main library. We talked about that $80,000. And overall, this is a 225% increase from our year over year, but that really does reflect the need that we have. I mean, you can see all around you the work that's been going on with the HVAC project. We're all very excited to have partial air conditioning in the building come November. We would like to have full and complete air conditioning in the building, if I may modestly suggest that. So we'll go very quickly into IT services. So this is a new budget line. The library had previously not broken out the expenses, the minimal expenses that we had on providing software, hardware, our back-end data support, our data center for the library. So again, in the interest of transparency, I really wanted to let people know, again, without the $20,000 we received from the Friends, we would not have been able to purchase new computers. We still were not able to purchase new monitors for the library, right? So having an investment in the technology, having a regular investment in the technology will make people's experience better when the building is able to be open, right? So first things first, open the building. Second thing, provide a better overall experience once people are inside. This will also be expanding wireless access, upgrading the data systems. And again, we're just going to keep moving forward with those hardware updates. Okay, we're on to collections and programs. I promise you the end is near. So when we look at collections and programs, it was a very modest increase this year. Thanks to the funding of the Friends of the Library, like I mentioned, we were able to keep our expenses for programs and speakers relatively flat. The 22% increase is largely to keep up with the rising cost of books and materials. I had mentioned it briefly at the start of my talk. Ebook costs are one of the biggest drivers for increases when it comes to digital collections. Many of you recently saw that the library had to reduce some of the services that we were providing with Hoopla. We were lucky that we only saw a 50% increase in our Hoopla spending in 1 year. Many libraries were seeing up to a 450% increase in what it would cost. Hoopla is a service where the library does not own the items. We are charged every time a book is checked out. Some of those licenses for us to own a book can be upwards of $400 per item. So this is one of those things that we don't really have the opportunity to talk to people a lot about. They see us taking away a service, but really we are trying to find better products and solutions to put that money into elsewhere so that way we can continue to provide you with entertaining apps and services. So again, 22% increase, largely covering that. Program funding is flat, only because we have the Friends of the Library to help us out along the way. So very quickly, I wanted to mention the library vote will be happening on Tuesday, September 16th. It will be happening from 12 noon until 8 p.m. at both locations here at 102nd Street over at the Lansingburg branch at 27 114th Street. Polls will be open. Anyone who is an eligible registered voter in the city of Troy who is over 18 years old is welcome to join. So with that, thank you for your support. We'll start to segue into the Meet the Trustees session. Here is my email. I also have cards available downstairs. Feel free to talk to me after the presentation as well. So thank you.
So I think all the candidates have